Hi, and welcome to Rontime. Today is the 13th of July, and we're coming to you from the studio of Tucson, Arizona. Access 20, my favorite place to shoot TV, and that's where that's at. So, today on Rontime, once again, we're going to do something a little bit like we did before, and that is we're actually going to count down every 37 seconds the arrest of another American for cannabis in the United States. And I'm going to hold a personal conversation with the Attorney General of the United States and the President of the United States over this media, knowing that the NSA will pick up their names, and listening to all of this will, of course, make sure that he hears what I have to say to both of them. I mean, after all, there is no privacy in America anymore. With the internet ruled by the FCC. Whoops. See, now there goes another American arrested for cannabis. Can you imagine that? Every 37 seconds during this show, you're going to hear this alarm go off, okay? Because another American is being arrested for cannabis, a non-narcotic. This past week, I had the privilege of sitting in Tucson Municipal Court watching cases for traffic and cases for dogs and cases for cannabis. And seems to me the prosecutor recommended to almost every single one of the people who were arrested for cannabis a fine of $1,450 and or restitution to the state through public service of, I think it was 256 hours at $10 an hour. Again, another 37 seconds passed. Another American was just arrested for cannabis, and some of them are going through Tucson Municipal Court Monday morning for their first hearing, where they're going to be told that the prosecutor would like them to pay $1,450 for possession of cannabis, a controlled substance, class 1 narcotic, far more dangerous, as we know, than methamphetamines or cocaine or heroin, which I don't know how often they arrest anybody for that. But there's another 37 seconds, and another American citizen was just arrested for cannabis. I'm not sure where that's at. So, is that where that's at? It's against the law to have two plants in your possession because they're controlled substances, which were made controlled substances in the 30s by hearings before the Congress of the United States, where the use of a fraudulent artifice slipped right past the committee chairman and became law. It's interesting that here we are nearly a century later, maybe, going through the same thing. And every 37 seconds, another American is arrested for cannabis on a lie that was told before the Congress of the United States of America. So, again, here we sit in 2013 with an American being arrested every 37 seconds for cannabis, and mandatory sentencing required by the ALEC-sponsored legislation that passed through all the states, including Arizona, in order to create these for-profit prisons where 4 out of 5 prisoners are persons of color. And again, another 37 seconds has passed, and another American citizen has just been arrested for cannabis. And if it's anything like the process that I saw in our city municipal court, it appears as though this is the drug of choice for prosecution. After all, it's easy to smell marijuana. Dogs can sniff it out from a considerable distance. It's a plant that grows on every continent except Antarctica. Again, another 37 seconds has passed and another American citizen was just arrested for cannabis. Under your watch, Mr. President, during the first 4 years, every 37 seconds means that 2,773,120 American citizens were arrested for cannabis. I'd like to know, sir, where you were at when that happened. And I'd like to know, sir, where you are at now about this condition. Because you're midway through the first year of your second term, and there's still an American arrested for cannabis every 37 seconds. And I'd like to see when you go to bed tonight and you tuck your kids in and you say, I'm the President of the United States and I'm doing the very best job that I can with the tools that I have and the people that I work with, and you look them square in the eye and you say, yeah, every 37 seconds, one of your fellow citizens was arrested for a non-narcotic and charged with a Class 1 felony in most cases for possession of cannabis. So, at the rate of every 37 seconds, your second administration should actually imprison another 2,773,120 American citizens for a non-narcotic Class 1 controlled substance made a controlled substance by the use of a fraudulent artifice before the Congress of the United States of America, of which you serve as Chief Executive. That's the reason, sir, if I may speak frankly, that I challenged you to a game of horse. Every 37 seconds, an American is arrested for cannabis. I challenge you to a game of horse here in Tucson, Arizona, where you and I are going to shoot some baskets and you're going to sign a document called the Harry Anslinger holiday. We're going to make it a national holiday of gardening for Americans to grow hemp and cannabis in the United States. Now that it can be revealed that in the 70s and 80s, the Drug Enforcement Agency of the federal government of the United States suppressed university studies that unequivocally, again, every 37 seconds, another American was just arrested for cannabis on your watch, sir. So, the DEA suppressed studies that proved unequivocally that tetrahydrocannabinoids, which are active ingredients in THC, the active ingredient in cannabis, will kill cancer cells on direct contact in the bloodstream without doing any damage to anything but the cancer cells. And your federal bureaucracy, because it had a lock on every 37 seconds a free laborer and someone who was going to pay fines and maybe restitution and community service, the game goes on and on and on, and it's under your watch. So you're coming to Tucson and you're playing horse against me, and if you lose, when you do lose, you will sign the draft proclamation Harry Anslinger Day. Because Harry Anslinger is the white supremacist racist who lied to Congress and made it a felony, a Class 1 substance. He lied to the Congress of the United States, and not one president since then has had the courage to stand up and tell the truth that the American people have been boondoggled by the federal government for fun and profit. the for-profit prisons where 4 out of 5 persons of color are housed in jail in America, we're 4 out of 5 prisoners on earth. And every 37 seconds, you just arrested another American citizen for cannabis. He's going to have a record. He's going to have hearings. He's going to have costs, fines, community restitution, God knows what. And it's under your watch. So where are you at? Why are you not coming to Tucson to play horse and get humiliated by losing to an amateur who's 5'6" and short of you by reach by almost 30 inches? Well, maybe 37. What do you think? While another American is now being arrested for cannabis, I want you to take 37 seconds and tell me why you haven't cleared this yourself. I mailed you the documents that you could sign to make this a presidential proclamation, which requires nothing from the Do-Nothing Congress. And since the Do-Nothing Congress can't do nothing, then give them nothing to do by signing a presidential proclamation making Harry Anslinger April 20th every year a day of national gardening for hemp and cannabis. Instead of taking our money every 37 seconds to arrest another American for a non-narcotic offense. How can you look your children in the eye and say, I did the very best I could? 4 out of 5 prisoners on earth are in American incarceration. 4 out of 5 of those are persons of color. The for-profit prison system is the largest single contributor to the lobbyists that keep this plant illegal. More than pharmaceuticals, more than tobacco, more than alcohol. All of those companies are afraid of legalized cannabis. And yet in 2 states, the people themselves have had the intelligence to understand that their government was wasting their money doing nothing to change the availability nor the danger presented by cannabis. Again, another American citizen was just arrested for cannabis on your watch, Mr. President, and you've done nothing to stop that. I don't know how long you think the American people can continue to support this kind of hypocrisy when you yourself, like me, in college, was arrested once for cannabis. You and I, we're lucky. Every 37 seconds, someone else like us got arrested for cannabis. The difference is we had lawyers, we had defense, we had community service, we had probation, we had alternatives to incarceration. The fact is, it's time for you to take that alternative nationally in all federal policies. It is time for you to stop prosecuting cannabis and hemp. If, in fact, you would stop prosecuting hemp and encourage it, then you could take these people that were arrested every 37 seconds for cannabis and teach them to farm for profit, for health, for benefits. Hemp oil could completely replace crude oil. And with all the problems that are now being discovered through the secrecy of the oil and gas industry, of how they're ruining the water tables wherever they're fracking. You can light a well on fire in Texas, Canada, Alaska. Another 37 seconds. Another American was just arrested for cannabis. On your watch, sir. And on your watch, you could move to a totally independent nation exporting energy to other countries. You could replace crude oil with hemp oil. You could put farmers to work in America on American rebuilt soil and rebuild the economy that George W. Bush drove into the ditch, taking us to 2 undeclared wars under false premises, and you could set all of that straight. You could turn this economy around with one signature on the draft resolution Harry Anslinger Day. You could. It's a brilliant solution, and it follows the same proclamation that was written for Cesar Chavez Day. I wrote it right here in Tucson using some of the same brilliant minds that helped to make Cesar Chavez Day a holiday. And another 37 seconds has passed. Another American was just arrested for cannabis, starting the whole cycle over and over and over again. Enough of the game. No more cops and robbers. No more BS in Washington, please. Under your watch, as chief executive, you could sign one document that turned this entire thing around. You would stop the civil wars in countries where they grow it, and you send in questionable security forces as subcontractors to the DEA. And the amount of money and time and energy that's being consumed by this process could be put to good use in the courts of America, where justice is not being served, where people have to wait to get a public defender, where it takes months to schedule a court case or a date because your courts are jammed up doing this cops and robber game that makes a lot of money for a very few people in very small places. 90% of the shareholders of for-profit prisons where another American could go after 37 seconds being arrested, 90% of the shareholders are Republicans. I guarantee you, if you did a racial profile of those people, you would find that there's a reason why 4 out of 5 prisoners in America are persons of color. Those corporations have taken over the system of justice since the Nixon administration in the 70s, when the policy in Vietnam was kill everything that moved. In America, they brought that policy back to bear, even though we passed the Civil Rights Law, even though we passed the Voter Rights Act. You can see that wealthy corporations and wealthy individuals behind these corporations have introduced laws that favor the process of incarceration as a for-profit business, and there is no justice in the system under which it's occurring. For an example, you must understand that the maximum sentence for possession of an ounce, another 37 seconds has passed, another American, maybe a citizen, maybe not, was just arrested for cannabis. But here in Arizona, in a report that was issued in 2009, it indicates that the maximum sentences for possession of an ounce of marijuana in the state of Arizona can carry a fine of $150,000. Well, let's see. An ounce of marijuana costs anywhere between $100 and $300 on the streets of almost any city in America, and that's why another American's arrested every 37 seconds for cannabis, is because these for-profit prisons need 90% occupancy to be profitable. And in order to give profit to shareholders, like Governor Jan Brewer of the state of Arizona, then you can get a maximum sentence for possession of 1 ounce of 1.5 years. And you can be fined a maximum fine of $150,000. Again, every 37 seconds, another American was just arrested for cannabis in the nation where you're at, where you, the chief executive, go to bed every night thinking that you've done the best job you can do. A $300 product can give you a maximum fine of $150,000 and a maximum sentence of jail time of 1.5 years. Every 37 seconds, another American gets sucked into this system, and you call yourself the president of a democracy? I would say that it is time for some leadership. I don't care if you don't want to play a couple of games of horse with me. That's fine. That's where that's at. But I do need for you to read and sign the draft proclamation, Harry Anslinger Day, which has been sent to you by mail, which has been sent to you electronically, which has been handed to you. Excuse me, sir. Another American was just arrested for cannabis on your watch every 37 seconds. So that means that if I were a betting man, I would go to Las Vegas and I'd set up a pool. And I'd bet that you're not going to change it in my lifetime. And I'm already 64 years old. And when I was arrested in 1974, the supply was exactly the same as it is now, and the price was the same. So the 130 billion plus, again, another 37 seconds, another American arrested for cannabis. The $131 billion plus that you've spent on the war on drugs since then has neither slowed the supply nor changed the price. In fact, if you look at heroin and cocaine, they're both cheaper than when the war on drugs was mandated by the Nixon administration in the 70s. So, the cost of the interdiction, the cost of doing business this way is not measurable in human intolerance. This is 21st century automated slavery. When 4 out of 5 persons in the world are imprisoned in the United States, and 4 out of those 5 people are persons of color, you are staring directly into the face of slavery, and you're doing nothing about it. Again, another 37 seconds has passed. Another American has just been arrested for cannabis on your watch. You need to get modern. You need to get with it. You need to get hip. What you're doing is wrong. You know it's wrong. You have no reason to justify not signing the draft proclamation, Harry Anslinger Day. Studies were released today from 2 universities. Again, another American was just arrested for cannabis on your watch. Studies were released today that indicate that cannabis actually reverses Alzheimer's. I don't know about you, but I've been watching Alzheimer's ever since my stepdad started to develop some dementia. I know other friends of mine have lost family members to a debilitating disease. And the money you just spent arresting another American in the last 37 seconds could have been used to publish the research that indicates that the federal government is one of the last positions on earth to ignore the science and truth and fact that's currently available to your administration to make intelligent choices with our money, our treasury, our lives, and our system of justice. 37 seconds. Another American was just arrested for cannabis under your watch. If I were you, I would reconsider your position immediately. If I were you, I would not let one day go by without reconsidering the policy of the federal government, the largest consumer of fossil fuels on earth, to legalize hemp for production, for fuel, and get this economy out of the George Bush ditch. Please. Another 37 seconds has just passed. Another American has been arrested for cannabis. It's on your watch. It's up to you. I want to thank my viewers, my supporters, my team for giving me the opportunity to speak freely to you. Thank you for the privilege of allowing me into your space, and I hope you have a nice day.